r/AskReddit by Reddify. Serious people who have killed another person. Accidentally or on purpose. What happened? People say euthanizing is illegal for humans in the US, but, as a nurse, when I have palliative orders, they are to give narcotics and benzos every 5 minutes as needed. You bet yours they are given every 5 minutes. I have killed people. They were about to die. And I hope that I took their pain away in the process. But the drugs I have given take that pain away and contribute to their death at the same time. That being said, I have never done this without an order from a physician or without family consent. Throw away anyway just in case someone decides to pick a bone. Nurses like you helped my grandfather die with some dignity the way he wanted. I'm a locomotive engineer. I drive trains. 13 times in my 19-year career so far. Someone ended up in front of my train that didn't survive. Suicide. Poor judgment or no sense of situational awareness combined with a vehicle that takes a mile or more to stop equals death about 50% of the time in my experience. The nightmares of various incidents awaken me regularly. Pretty sure that I suffer PTSD. But if I do something about it, I will lose my job, medically disqualified. I cannot let that happen at the moment as financial ruin would result. Please. Stay out of the path of my freight train. Edit. Wow. Lots of comments. The railroad does offer counselors and some help. But yes, a diagnosis of PTSD would end my career. Thanks for the suggestion of self-paying for a session. That I'm going to look into. A friend of mine works on a freight line. He will make jokes about it because, in his words, you either laugh about it or you crack. Black humor is a genuine and effective coping mechanism. You just need to be sure of your audience. Some people just can't understand that. I was the driver in a car accident with my 3 best friends. The 3 of them died. I survived. Somehow. Just writing that makes me nauseous today. And I say today because every day is different. Some days I can talk about it or write about it and I'm okay, and some days I just want to go back in bed and cry and scream. And today apparently is one of those days. The thing is though, you never really know until something triggers you, and I hate that word, and it leads you into a spiral. Okay, I have to stop writing now. Edit. Wow. When I wrote I have to stop writing. That's exactly what I did. I put down my phone cause it was too much for me in that moment. And then I opened Reddit up in my usual social media rounds. And came back to this. Thank you to everyone for kind words. They mean a lot, and I will try to respond to the ones directed at me. Thank you again. Really. Brought tears to my eyes. Triggers are real. Even if the word is contentious now. I'm so sorry. The word is contentious because it was misused by people who said that common things are triggering and should be prohibited. When I was around 6, I had a habit of sleeping on the stairs. One day my sister, who was currently pregnant, was going down the stairs ended up tripping over me and fell down hard. She ended up miscarrying. I guess it's not killing someone in a traditional sense, but in a way I did kill my unborn niece/nephew. I never really got over it. It was and still is horrifying to me. Edit. A word. Edit. Thanks for the support guys. While I realize now that perhaps it was just horrid timing, I guess I'll always feel responsible for what happened. I've tried not to let it eat me up, but it's one of those things where you just wonder what could have gone differently. You were 6. This was not your fault. I won't even pretend to understand how you feel. But I hope no one made you feel like you were to blame. It was an accident. I hope you are doing better now though. Hugs from random internet stranger that wishes you well. Edit. I will no longer be responding to people trying to blame the 6-year-old for what happened. Is an innocent victim in a terrible situation. I cannot believe that people would blame a child for a terrible accident. Quite frankly, telling a 6-year-old they were the cause of miscarriage. True or not? Is ducked right the duck up? I was 12 when it happened, and as much as it was a pure accident, my life was better afterward. My mum and I were living with her boyfriend at the time. This man was a runk and an abuser. I came home one day from school to find him beating my mum down in the kitchen. I had never even thought about standing up to this guy. He was above 6 feet 3 and very broad, but that day I came home from school made me summon all the courage I had to save my mum. As I ran over to them, I grabbed a fork off the table and stabbed him just below his shoulder on the back. It scared him so much that he had a heart attack and died on the floor. That just sounds like the universe was on your side that day. I'm still grateful to this day. I was supposed to get up and check on my mom. She'd been fighting cancer for 4 years, and it had been the majority of my mid-20s. Spent my time on her. Left college ECT. She was planning on getting up and driving herself to her doctor's that day, but I usually check on her because she can have bad days. I overslept. It was nearly 11 AM, and I woke to a phone call from my dad saying the doctors hadn't seen her. I checked upstairs in her room, the kitchen. Nothing. Then I saw the bathroom door open a crack. What was in there was basically half a mummy on the floor and feces everywhere mixed with vomit. I don't know what happened, but I called 911 without stepping foot in the bathroom. Hello? 911? My mom's dead. The flatpen explanation caught the poor guy off guard completely. I mean, I guess I was in shock, but not really that shocked, you know. He was in a full panic. I followed along and pretended to perform CPR. Her eyes were white. She was covered in vomit. Ice cold and drained like a mummy. Sometime later, I don't have an idea for time perspective. It was all moving very slowly. The paramedics showed up. We are a small town. Everyone knew us. I'm in my underpants. And the lead paramedic is a good friend from high school. The awkward exchange was not something I forget. They pretended to do CPR for about 30 seconds. Then get a command to keep working on it in the truck. I messaged him on FB later to ask if that was a show. Which it was obviously. He said basically, "We always do on deceased at the scene." This was all difficult, but just a gory version of expectation. The next part haunts me. I had to call my dad back. He ran home from work. He ran around the house getting her things. He wanted to make sure we had her medical info for the ERDRs and her medication list. I kept trying to explain we would need it. I kept trying to keep him in this world. I was too much of a coward. I was speaking in riddles. I couldn't do it. We get to the move to a small room with cheap furniture you only find in rooms where they tell you people die. The doctor came in and addressed him directly in what must have been at most 4 sentences. And then stared at him after "I'm sorry." It was like he had been run over by a car. He just sobbed into his hands for it had felt like hours. He got up without a word and left the room. I found him nearly half an hour later pacing in the parking lot. We decided to get hit-faced. My fiance, now wife, found us somehow 2 hours later 2 blocks away at a bar. To this day I don't know how. She must have checked every bar in town. A total mess. She sat with us for hours. My dad now has a girlfriend. He thinks I hate him for that. But I don't. Has earned whatever happiness he can find. He pushed through the hardest 4 years of their lives and tried to single-handedly beat cancer with no medical knowledge and no resources. He can be called a lot of hitty things in his life. But for 4 years he showed me what character is. I just wish I could been more courageous. It was my place to tell him. Not that doctor. Edit. Thanks for all the responses. Apologize for the typos. Single run on mobile. I had a hard enough time writing that to go through and edit. I don't know if this thread was a great place for that, but it felt good typing it all out. When I was young I used to get bullied a lot. I was in the 9th grade and I had this one person, a senior, that would harass me and sometimes hit me constantly. I always tried to just ignore it, but I had to walk outside to get to one of my classes and he knew about it. Not a lot of people were around us. We were on the sidewalk, walking down a hill towards the ag barn. He pushed me and I fell down the hill a little but caught myself. I got angry. Angrier than I normally get. I got so angry that for the first time, I pushed him back. Instead of falling to the side, or not falling at all, like I thought he would, he fell right off the sidewalk, onto the road, for student parking and buses, and fell in front of a bus. There was a few people watching, and I called the police afterwards. I know he was bullying me, but I have nightmares about what I did still. Because of what the people who saw said, and the camera outside the building. Luckily I never suffered any consequences. But I almost wish I had. Edit. Obligatory thanks for the gold. Definitely didn't think my first Reddit gold would be for something like this. Outside of my small town. I haven't told many people about this. And wasn't really sure what the reaction would be. I feel awful that this happened. You shouldn't blame yourself. Even though he may not have been fully realizing the emotional effects of what he did and said to you. If someone physically harasses you and you hit back, it is not your fault. You finally snapped. And you had no intention to really hurt him. It was self-defense. I hope you are doing okay now. Death is an awful thing. Even if maybe it comes to a not necessarily good person. I got caught in a bad situation with some muggers. In Pakistan they kill you after they take your things. They don't leave folks alive that often. So I shot back. Edit. Thank you for everyone who offered kind words and support. I'm at a peace with it now and don't think about it anymore. Don't even have a scar from the surgery. To all the racists and political folks, shut the duck up. Edit. It was also a special situation. It was the night Benazir Bhutto was assassinated and the city went crazy with riots. Martial law had to be imposed. Edit. If you doubt me or disapprove, I don't care. Did what you had to do. Peace and love, my friend. Undercooked food at a barbecue. Woman got food poisoning. Complications arose because of pre-existing conditions. She got septic and died. She had just recently had a baby. So that was left without a mother. Go me. Double bubble with that duck up. So don't cook while drunk, kids. Because you might kill someone. Wow. This is definition the most innocent post on this thread, and it hits me the hardest. Because it could happen so easily to anyone. That's not Afghanistan or Vietnam. You could cook for your friends during a football game, and it could happen to you. So ducked up. I was working out of town. Which is pretty common in my line of work. Touring with bands. We had just started a new tour with an artist. But as a crew a bunch of us had been working for several artists over the last few years. When you work these long hours, sometimes under ridiculous pressure and circumstances, and live on a tour bus, sleeping a few feet away from 11 other grown adults, one of two things happen. You just get in with it. Drink away any sadness you have from being so exhausted and missing your family and friends because you haven't seen them in months. Or you become incredibly close, like a family. You're together through everything. Long incredibly hard days. Or experiencing the joy of something or somewhere new. On this particular tour, it was going to be a smaller group of us than the last tour. No need for a video technician. But we really liked the video technician. We had done a year or two together. And he was a really great kid. Always saw the bright side of everything. You could always count on him to have a smile on his face. No matter how many hours we had been working. Lucky for the tour, more video equipment was added. And so he came out to join us right as we were going into rehearsals for the tour. We went through a week of rehearsals. Then took a ferry to Victoria from Vancouver. To start the tour. First show done. We all had such a great time. A really easy first day. Load in. The install went quickly. The show went off without a hitch. And we finished a few hours earlier than we expected. We went back to the hotel to get some food and have a drink. Our rooms were next to each other. It was a nice spring night. We sat outside on our adjoining balconies. He was a wine expert. He loved red wine. I had an unopened bottle of red in my room. And he had an unopened bottle of white in his room, which he knew I liked. He leaned over his railing to pass me a bottle, which I easily grabbed from him. The balconies were so close together. So I passed him the bottle of red from my room. But he slipped. On the wet balcony. After this point, I have no memory of any sounds. But everyone on the tour staying on that side of the hotel heard me screaming. I saw him go over the railing. I saw him hit the side of the hotel. And I saw him land 50 feet below me. I ran to the elevator. Yelled at the front desk to call 911 on my way past. But it was too late. It wouldn't have mattered. I got to him and looked into his eyes and they were lifeless. A large piece of the back of his head was a few feet from us. I held his hand and sobbed that I was sorry, until a security guard pulled me off. From that day, we were a tour family, connected by the worst bond imaginable. Edit. Whoa. Thanks for the support out there, folks. Felt good to write this. I've been talking about it more and more lately. And yeah. His name was Yon. He is missed every day. Oh my god, how horrifying. I'm so sorry. I was 19. I went over to my girlfriend's house one Saturday morning and we hung out until around 4 PM. She was going over to her friend's house to go swimming, but I had other plans, so I didn't go. Her mom asked her to take a bag of trash to the dump when she went. So I told her I'd follow her to the dump and throw it out, since it was on my way. I pulled in behind her at the dump. I grabbed the bag out of the back. She was driving her dad's truck because she didn't want trash in her car, and I tossed it in the dumpster. I banged on the truck bed twice to let her know she could go, and said bye. I realized after I left I didn't say love you like I usually did. So I sent her a text. She didn't answer me back. So I just assumed she didn't hear the phone. Her dad's truck had loud exhaust, so it made sense. I lived about 40 minutes away. When I walked in my front door, I got a phone call from her mom. She was in a panic. She told me there had been a wreck. My girlfriend was alive, but she was being flown by helicopter to VQ Medical Center in Richmond, Virginia. I ran to my car and I didn't take my foot off the accelerator until I got to her parents' house. We got in her mom's car and made the 2-hour drive to Richmond. When we arrived, we walked into the emergency department and went to the front desk. Her dad told the receptionist who he was looking for. At the same time, a doctor was standing behind the counter. The receptionist said the name wasn't in the system, so she spun around and asked the doctor. He walked out, introduced himself, asked a few questions to confirm who we were. Then he said she was dead. I was standing by a wall. I fell back against it and slid down to the floor, where I sat for a while in pure disbelief. Her parents went down the hall to talk to someone about something. I walked outside and sat beside a big column and smoked a cigarette. I called my parents. It didn't seem like I sat there very long, but I'm sure it was at least 3-4 hours. I just sat there. There are no words to describe that kind of hurt. Most of the next few weeks are missing from my memory. I just laid in my bed and cried. I didn't eat. And I didn't sleep. I just cried and stared at the wall. I cried until there were no more tears left. And cried some more. I weighed 160 before she died. I weighed 120 pounds a month and a half after she died. I know it was hard on my parents watching me like that. My mom tried to get me to eat. I wouldn't. They tried to get me to get out of bed. I wouldn't. They even called a pastor to come talk to me. I told him to go duck himself. There was nothing that could console me. The love of my life was dead. And I sent the text message that killed her. One day, I just snapped out of it. I got up to go to the bathroom and I saw my reflection in the mirror. I barely recognized my own face. I knew I had the choice to move on with my life, or I'd be dead myself. I'm from a small town, so the only thing for young people to do was hang out in the Walmart parking lot. I got dressed and drove to Walmart. I saw a few people I knew, so I stopped and talked to them. From then on, I spent every evening hanging out in the parking lot. The cops would come around and kick us out, so we'd find somewhere else to park and hang out some more. A year later, we got kicked out of the lot by the cops one night, so we decided to go to somebody's house and drink some beer. We all made phone calls and invited people we knew. It was there, at my friend's house, that I met my next girlfriend. 2 years later, we got married. This month we celebrate our 7th anniversary. We have 2 beautiful children. And I've never been happier. I know time heals all wounds is a really worn out cliche, but it's true. A couple years ago, I was digging through my mom's cedar chest looking for my birth certificate, and found a newspaper clipping from the accident. The newspaper said other motorists reported she swerved to miss a dog, overcorrected and flipped the truck. I never knew that was the cause. Knowing that it wasn't my text message lifted a huge burden. But I still don't text. Edit. Thanks for the gold. I'm so sorry for your loss, but I'm glad you know the truth. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.